Did you know that during summer, food poisoning levels almost triple? Whether you stay at home or travel abroad, when the temperatures rise, food poisoning risk rises with it. So guys, in this video we will have a look at how we can keep our tummy safe from those nasty bugs at your summer barbecues or while away travelling. Hey again guys, my name is Didi and I'm a registered dietitian with Didititian.com, and welcome back to my video series on summertime health hacks, where I delve into the many opportunities that summer gives us to build on our healthy habits. So the links for my other videos in the series are in the description box below, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell button on my channel page to get notified when my next videos come out. So as I mentioned earlier, food poisoning risk almost triples during summer. So today, I'm going to have a look at some key food safety principles that will help keep those awful food poisoning bugs at bay. Now, food poisoning is an illness that is caused by eating foods and drinks that are contaminated with harmful bacteria. The symptoms of food poisoning can vary, but may include feeling sick, stomach cramps, headaches, fever, vomiting and diarrhea. Food poisoning is common when traveling, especially if you travel to warm countries with poor standards of sanitation and hygiene. Around 30 to 50% of people traveling from a developed country to a developing country may experience the type of food poisoning often called traveler's diarrhea. Countries where the risk of developing food poisoning is up to 50% include most of Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Mexico, and Central South America. Up to 15% of people visiting countries in Eastern Europe, Russia, Southern Africa, and some Caribbean islands may be at risk, yet less than 4% of people travelling to Northern and Western Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and the US are at risk of food poisoning. But food poisoning rates rise everywhere during summertime, even in Ireland. Last summer, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland released a warning statement after noticing a sharp rise in the amount of food poisoning incidents during the summer months. Data from the National Disease Surveillance Centre on Foodborne Illnesses show that an average of 17 notifications of salmonella food poisoning occur every month from January to April. However, this number increases to over 50 a month for the periods from May to September. So the Food Safety Authority warned that the rise in food poisoning during the summer months of 2018 was potentially due to people eating partially uncooked burgers. Food poisoning can be a serious illness and may lead to dehydration, hospitalization, and kidney failure. However, it is often easily avoided if you keep an eye out for good food hygiene. In order to grow, bacteria usually need 6 things. Firstly, much like any other living thing, they need food. And the foods they like best are protein-rich foods like dairy foods, meat, fish, shellfish, and poultry. Next, they need an environment that's not too acidic. So for example, storing foods in vinegar and pickling foods can extend its shelf life. Bacteria also need time to grow, but not a lot of time. A single bacterium can multiply to over 2 million in just under 7 hours. Next, they need the right temperature. And bacteria have more tolerance to heat and cold than we humans do. They grow best at temperatures anywhere between 5 and 63 degrees Celsius. Oxygen is also important for the growth of most bacteria, and leaving foods exposed to the air means that they don't only have ready exposure to oxygen, but also to the billions of bacteria just floating around suspended in the air. And lastly, bacteria need moisture, so they grow best in wet foods such as juicy sandwiches, soups, sauces, meats, and dressings. In order to reduce your risk of getting food poisoning, you need to take away as many of those 6 things that help bacteria grow. Now, a handy way to remember them is using the acronym FAT-TOM, which stands for food, acid, time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. So let's have a little look at how we can use our FAT-TOM principle to reduce our risk of getting food poisoning. So first, we'll explore some practical tips to keep in mind when traveling to countries where the risk of food poisoning is high. And next, we'll see how we can apply the same FAT-TOM principle to ensure that our lovely summer barbecue is one to remember for all the right reasons. So, after all that holiday prep, you don't want to let food poisoning hold you back from enjoying your well-deserved holiday fun. Some common sense food safety tips will help you to reduce your risk of falling ill. So, the F in FAT-TOM stands for food. As we mentioned earlier, high protein foods such as your meat, poultry, and fish, as well as dairy products, are foods to watch out for when it comes to food poisoning bugs. When eating meat, fish, or poultry, make sure that they've been cooked thoroughly. Only drink milk or eat dairy products that have been pasteurized. And any foods that have been in contact with raw meat are also at risk of carrying those food poisoning bugs. So keep an eye out for the general cleanliness of the restaurant or markets where you buy your food. Are the utensils and glasses clean? Are the staff well presented? Are there just simply other people eating in the restaurant? If you're in any way unsure or concerned about how your food is being cooked, consider asking for restaurant recommendations at your hostel or hotel, and check out online recommendations and guidebooks. And a final tip here, food packaging, including the peels of fruit or the bottle top of a water or soda bottle, may have also been in touch with food poisoning bugs. So try to peel your fruit, maybe use a straw or glass to keep your mouth from touching the bottle top. So next, looking at the A of our FATTOM acronym. Pickled food, so food that is somewhat acidic, tends to carry a lower risk of carrying food poisoning bugs. However, because they often tend to be moist as well, the risk is still there when you're traveling. Next, we look at time. Food that's been laying around waiting for you to eat it has probably had plenty of time to develop those food poisoning bugs as well. Instead, go for fresh foods and foods that have been being prepared to order. Because if it looks like it's been hanging around there waiting for you, so too have those bacteria. And the same counts if you were buying food from the local market. Always look for foods that look and smell fresh. Looking at the T for temperature, obviously foods that are laying around unrefrigerated are at a prime temperature for food poisoning bacterial growth. And if you are eating out, then food that should be hot should be served hot, and foods that should be served cold. So the O is for oxygen. Watch out for foods that have been left sitting out in the open air for too long. Foods that have been wrapped, preferably in airtight containers such as cans or jars, or an airtight wrap, carry a lower risk of harbouring food poisoning bugs. And finally, moisture harbours plenty of bugs as well. Be aware that in many developing countries, the water systems harbour a large variety of parasites and bacteria. Therefore, it's best advised to drink bottled water. This also means that any food that have been washed in tap water or that has tap water added to it should be avoided. So avoid raw vegetables and salads that have been washed in local water, but also keep an eye out for foods that have had ice added, such as a cold drink or a slushie. Now, many of the same travelling food safety principles apply here in Ireland. However, the overall risk of getting food poisoning here is much lower. Tap water in Ireland is often safer than in developing countries, and food hygiene at restaurants is carefully monitored by the Food Safety Authority of Ireland. But we do know that food poisoning rates reach a yearly high in summertime. So again, looking at those same FATTOM principles, how can we keep food poisoning at bay when we are hosting a summer barbecue? Again, those high protein foods pose the biggest risk of harbouring food poisoning bacteria. Make sure that your meat, poultry and fish are cooked thoroughly, and try to avoid cross-contamination of your raw meat and your cooked meat. And the same counts for your cooking utensils and plates. Do not use the same utensils and plates that you used to handle or store raw meat for your cooked meat and for other foods such as your breads and salads. Now in 2018, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland felt that most episodes of food poisoning were due to burgers that had not been cooked thoroughly. So if any meat, poultry or fish on your plate hasn't been cooked completely, return it to the barbecue for an extra few minutes and just grab yourself a clean plate and cutlery. To check if your meat is cooked all the way through, cut into the centre of it and check if that is piping hot all the way through. Make sure that there is no pink meat left inside and that the juices from the meat run clear. Looking at time, I know that heating those coals and just simply barbecuing in general always takes a little longer than expected. And the longer your food spends in the sun and out of the fridge, the longer food poisoning bugs have time to multiply. And believe me, they multiply rapidly. So only take your food outside when you are ready to start eating. And if your barbecues are anything like mine, then leftovers from your barbecue could feed an entire family for several days. So make sure that your leftovers are not left outside for too long, where temperatures are high and insects could get at them. Try to refrigerate your leftovers within 2 hours of cooking and use them up within 3 days. But of course, throw out anything that you feel you have a doubt over about whether it's still okay or not. And again, looking at T for temperature, food that should be hot should be served hot, and foods that should be served cold. So only take your meat out of the fridge when you're ready to start cooking, and make sure that your meat comes off the barbecue hot and cooked thoroughly. Leave any salads, sauces and other perishables in the fridge until you need them, as those Irish sunshine temperatures are actually still perfect for bacterial growth. And also remember to reheat your leftovers the next day until they're piping hot. Again, looking at the O for oxygen. Keep your perishables well wrapped and covered to reduce the risk of food poisoning. Remember that oxygen is needed for bacterial growth. So again, just try and leave your jars and cans closed until you actually need them. And lastly, foods that are high in moisture can harbour many food poisoning bacteria. During a barbecue, this is especially true for your sauces and marinades. Keep your sauces stored in the fridge until you need them. And be aware that any marinades used on raw meats cannot then be used to cover your vegetables, as they contain the bacteria from the raw meat. So if you want to use the marinades as a sauce afterwards, maybe make sure to cook it in a saucepan and bring it to the boil before serving. So guys, while the risk of food poisoning is at an all-time high when you're traveling and during summertime, there is a lot that you can actually do to reduce your risk. Keep in mind the fat tom principle, so that is food, acid, time, temperature, oxygen and moisture, to help you remember what those bacteria need to grow. And by applying the simple food safety tips for traveling and barbecuing that we explored today, you will greatly reduce your risk of developing one of those nasty bugs. Summer is a time when the weather is kinder, the days are longer, and many of us are getting a chance to spend some time off work. In this video series on Summertime Healthy Hacks, we have looked at how we can make the most of the many opportunities that summer brings to optimize our health. No matter whether you stay home or go away on holiday this summer, this is the time to build on those healthy habits by exercising more, getting inspired by healthy eating, watching out for food hygiene when the temperatures rise, and giving some much needed TLC to our minds through rest and mindfulness. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, guys, and hit that little bell button on my channel page to get notified when my next video comes out. I hope to catch you on my Facebook, Twitter and Pinterest pages, where I'll keep the conversation going until my next video. Have a lovely summer, and I'll see you again. Bye!